Republican nominee. Jeremy Fleming is the challenger and the Democratic nominee. Both candidates are honorable, loyal, and dedicated to serving and keeping Dickinson County safe. We would like to thank both of you for your service. Our moderators tonight are Robert England, sitting next to Glenda, and Clay Robinette. Robert is a professor of criminal justice, supervision, and administration at Mountain Empire Community College. He has been a police officer and a teacher. He also leads Southwest Virginia Law Enforcement Academy's leadership program and is well known and highly regarded in his field. The other moderator is Clay, and he is a lieutenant and veteran of the Bristol, Virginia City Police Department. He now serves as a supervisor in administration, and he has many years of service in the trenches. Clay has earned tremendous respect for his abilities, especially in the area of policies and procedures, as well as law enforcement best practices. We would also like to thank both of you for your service. Okay, some ground rules for tonight are please, no applauding, no booing, no clapping, no anything until the end of it, please. We all want to be respectful to the candidates. Okay, thank you.
Well, good evening. I'm Lieutenant Robinette with Bristol, Virginia Police Department. Tonight we're going to have a series of questions and answers with both candidates. And the question has been asked. It'll be for both of you to answer. You'll have a 2-minute response time. If the question is directly for the candidate, you will hear us say this is for candidate Fleming or his family, and it'll be directly toward you. I'll start off with the first question tonight. And the first question will be directed toward Mr. Fleming. That's right. I'm sorry, gentlemen. You each have a 3-minute opening statement. And when you have 15 seconds left and you need to wrap up, you'll hear me tap on the microphone. And that means you have 15 seconds left. Mr. Fleming.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. First and foremost, I want to thank each and every one of you here tonight for coming out to the debate. I also want to thank Dickinson County League of Interested Voters for putting that together tonight, and the Dickinson County Public Schools for the venue we have here tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Jeremy Fleming, Dickinson County Democratic candidate for Sheriff 2019. My parents are Diane Swindle and the late Donnie Fleming of Flintwood. I am a lifelong resident of Dickinson County and a 1999 graduate of Flintwood High School. I'm married to my beautiful wife, Ashley Fleming, who's here tonight with our daughter, Brooklyn, sitting about 3 rows back. I began my career in law enforcement in August 2002 with the Department of Corrections at Redlands State Prison. I became a field training officer in 2003, where I trained and supervised countless numbers of correctional officers by DCJS standards. In 2004, I became a member of the Disturbance Control Team, which consisted of highly trained employees capable of responding to crisis situations and providing support to other law enforcement agencies. In 2009, I began employment with the Dickinson County Sheriff's Office and served as Deputy Sheriff for approximately 7 years. During that time, I was voted best of the best law enforcement officer by the citizens of Dickinson County on several different occasions, and won the Mothers Against Drunk Driving Award 5 consecutive years. I was very active in the department, attended almost every community watch meeting throughout the county from month to month. I made multiple trips to Richmond to lobby for raises for the employees of our department. I was dedicated to my job, and I loved serving the citizens of Dickinson County. In 2016, I began employment with the University of Virginia's College of Wise, where I'm currently employed as a police officer. In 2014, I was elected to a 4-year term to serve on the Flintwood Town Council and served approximately 2 years on the council before my wife and I built a house on the outskirts of town. I currently sit on the Flintwood Rescue Squad Board of Directors also, and jointly supervise activities of the organization. I've worked with the Dickinson County Sheriff's Office and I've been served by that department. I have an inside look on things that need to be changed for the better to serve the citizens of Dickinson County.
All right, we'll call time for Mr. Fleming. Mr. Stanley, you have 3 minutes for opening statement, sir.
Good evening, everyone. I want to go out and thank everyone for being here tonight. It's a great crowd. Also want to thank everybody that's online watching us tonight. Guys, I'm Sheriff Scott Stanley, for y'all don't know me. I've been born and raised, spent my whole life here in Dixon County. I graduated from Clintwood High School in 1980. After that, I attended Southwest Virginia Community College. I received an associate's degree in police science. After that, I attended Virginia Western Community College in Roanoke, and I received an associate's degree in business management. After that, I attended University of Wise, which is now, or CBC, which is now University of Wise, and I received a Bachelor in Science in Business Administration. I've been married to my lovely wife, Paula, and again, I want to stress that I've been married to my lovely wife, Paula, for 35 years. I've heard a lot of stuff during this campaign, and I want everyone to know I love my wife very much. I attended, kind of got thrown off with that, but I get a little emotional and upset. Sorry about that. My parents are the late Ivan Cannonball Stanley and Martha Gates Stanley. I started to work for Dixon County Sheriff's Office in January of 2000 under Bobby Hammonds as a dispatcher. I worked in that position for a few months, and I was able to go to the road school in Bristol at Southwest Virginia Training Academy, and I worked as a road officer for about 2 years. Then after that, I was promoted to a sergeant over the road for about another year. I spent 14 years in investigations as a criminal and narcotics investigator. In 2016, Chief Deputy Andy Miles Silcox retired, and I was appointed Chief Deputy by Sheriff Bobby Hammonds. And I stayed in that position until Sheriff Hammonds retired in September of 2018. Since 2018, I've been sheriff, and I've been humbled, and it's been an honor to have been able to be appointed as sheriff, the Circuit Court Judge Brian Patton. I'm proud of the accomplishments we've made in a little over a year, and I promise the best is yet to come. We get 4 more years, there are no stopping Dixon County Sheriff's Office. We went from a department that was virtually unknown to a department that's now recognized throughout the state by larger agencies. I'm very proud of that. And right here's the reason. This is most of my crew sitting right here. This is our department. I couldn't make it without these guys, and I'm very proud of them. During the campaign, there's been a lot. I've talked to a lot of people. I've heard a lot of rumors, and I've heard a lot of lies told about myself and about my staff. Tonight, we put those to rest. We leave here, we get the answers straight, we're going to solve the lies, we're going to put an end to it tonight. Thank y'all for this.
Thank you, sir. All right, next we'll begin the debate question part of tonight's debate. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond, and they will have a 15-second warning toward the end of their response. The first question goes to Mr. Fleming now. How do you measure a successful sheriff's office?
I measure a successful sheriff's office by its leaders. The leaders of the sheriff's office is what makes or breaks a good department. It is obvious, it's been obvious to me over the past 3.5, 4 years, that's not what we've had in our county. We've had everything from grand jury investigations, and like Mr. Stanley said, he's correct. A lot of rumors, a lot of lies circling around, and I hope we can take care of and address some of those problems here tonight. A lot of things that have been said about me and my family as well, and hopefully we can put those to rest here tonight.
Mr. Stanley, you have 2 minutes for response.
The question was, how
do you measure a successful sheriff's office?
well, just some things that I look at what we've achieved since September of 2018. First time in the history of Dixon County Sheriff's Office, we've been able to start a Master Deputy program. That program allows our officers that have been there for a certain amount of time that meets the standards from DCJS to receive a pay raise and just the title of Master Deputy. That's never happened before in the history of the Dixon County Sheriff's Office. We've got a good team. I've attended the Leadership Academy in Mountain Empire, and I can't take the credit. I've got a good team. I've got hard workers. I've got a good staff. We've made, like I say, we'll get into achievements later tonight, but I've got a list of things that we've accomplished.
Okay, my name's Robert England. This question will go to Sheriff Stanley first, and then Jeremy will be able to respond after. So, hang on just 1 second. We've got Gilda problems.
I didn't ask for this job.
Okay. All right, Sheriff, this is a question, and if you need me to clarify it, I can, but do you believe there should be a minimum standard pertaining to experience and training for the position of sheriff in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
Yes, I do. I know the sheriff is not required to be a trained officer, and I think that they should be. I think any sheriff in the state of Virginia should be a certified officer just as well as his employers. I'm very proud to say that I've been a dispatcher. I've been a certified dispatcher. I've been an investigator. I'm probably one of the few sheriffs throughout the state that can go out and work a crime scene with his people. So I think that all sheriffs ought to be certified.
Okay. Mr. Fleming? Yeah, the question is, do you believe there should be a minimum standard pertaining to experience and training for the position of sheriff in the Commonwealth of Virginia?
Yes, sir, I absolutely do. And again, I agree with Mr. Stanley. I think that all sheriffs should be a certified police officer, and I understand all are not, but I do agree that there should be minimum qualifications for that position.
All right, Mr. Fleming, you've got 2 minutes to respond, and then Sheriff Stanley will be able to respond. As sheriff, what would be the top 3 things you would do after you take office?
I think the top 3 things I would do as sheriff, first I'd have to step back and take a look at the current department situation, and I would look at changing the way we do drugs, for one. Drugs are a big issue in Dickinson County, and I'm knocking on a lot of doors throughout the county, approximately 3,600. I would probably look at possibility of leaving HIDA, maybe even leaving the Wise County Task Force agency and going with Buchanan County. That would be one of the first things I think I would do because the numbers that I have certainly do not reflect very well on the sheriff's office. So that would be the first thing that I would do. I think I don't think I can pinpoint it to just 3 things. There are a number of different things that I would do. I would ask for an audit. There have been so many, again, rumors and accusations of missing money, missing drugs, missing evidence from the sheriff's office. And that would be number 2 on my list, would be asked for an audit on day 1. Number 3, I would sit down, I would speak with every officer, every individual at the sheriff's office. And again, there have been a lot of rumors and accusations, and I would speak to each and every officer and employee at the sheriff's office and let them know that as long as they maintain a high level of professionalism.
That's 2 minutes, sir. 2 minutes. Mr. Stanley, as sheriff, what would be the top 3 things you would do after you take office?
Well, Mr. Robinette, since I've already been in office, it would continue the things we're doing, but that is we became more aggressive in our drug interdictions. I've heard the numbers from Mr. Fleming over there, that they're not normal, their hours are very low. I'd like to see those numbers tonight, and maybe we can talk about that in a minute. As far as leaving HIDA, I don't understand why we would ever think about leaving a federal funded thing that pays our officer is overtime. Our drug officer does not accrue overtime because the task force pays that through HIDA. We get equipment that we would never be able to afford without the help of HIDA. So I can't understand why we would get rid of HIDA. As far as audits, Mr. Fleming said we had stuff missing out of our evidence room, money missing. We do have audits with our accounts and everything. Anybody is more than welcome to come anytime. We do an audit at our office. We have nothing to hide. We have no evidence missing. We have no money missing from our sheriff's office. But the things I want to do, we're just going to continue to work hard on the drugs. We're going to continue to be in the schools for our children, and we're going to continue to serve the public.
Okay, Sheriff Stanley, this question is for you. You'll have 2 minutes, and Mr. Fleming, you'll have 2 minutes to respond as well. Sheriff, in your opinion, what is the most important skill a leader must possess?
To me, the most important thing a leader must have is able to motivate his team to work with him. Just not only to work with him, but for themselves to step up and take the lead themselves. I think a good leader's, you're not born a leader. I think it's something that you just have to work hard for. You've got to go through training. You've got to go through classes. It's very difficult to get everybody on board with your plan. But I think if you work hard and you have a good plan, you're going to get everybody involved.
Mr. Fleming, did you hear the question okay?
Yes, sir. I think the first one is being able to be an excellent communicator. You've got to be able to talk to your employees, keep them notified, keep them in the loop of what's going on. I think excellent decision-making skills is a good one as well. You got to be able to think on your feet, act on your feet. And I also think lead by example. Just set a good example for others and show them how to do it. Don't just hand them the keys and say, here you go, this is your job, this is what it is, this is what you do. Take them by the hand and lead them. Get out there and show them what you want done, how you want it done.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Fleming, what is your leadership style, and how will you implement that style within the sheriff's office?
Yes, I've spent 18 years in the law enforcement. The last 4 years have been with University of Virginia's College of Wise. Spent 7 years with the sheriff's office, and also spent approximately 7 years at the Department of Corrections. During those 15 years, I've been a field training officer. I was responsible for the training and evaluation of field training officers and newly hired employees. I spent 2.5 years on the Clintwood Town Council, where we supervised approximately 20 employees for the town and managed a $1.3 million budget. And also spent the last 4 years on the Clintwood Rescue Squad Board of Directors, where we jointly oversaw operations of the organization. So my leadership style, I feel like, is just lead by example. Like I said a minute ago, show your officers and employees how you want it done, and they will follow and do a good job.
Thank you, sir. Sheriff Stanley, what is your leadership style, and how will you implement that style within the sheriff's office?
My leadership style is simple. I get out and work with the officers every day. I don't stay in the office. I'm out with the officers every day on calls. One thing that we've been doing, I was the first one from our sheriff's office to attend the Leadership Academy at Dick Stone. Since then, we've sent about 5 of our people through that class, and we're going to continue to do that. That's one of the best classes I've ever attended in my life. It taught us leadership. It teaches you how to communicate and talk with people, and it's really been a plus for our department. Talking about previous management skills, I've got over 30-some years of management. I was a store manager for Rite Aid Pharmacy for about 10 years. I was a Coca-Cola manager for Coca-Cola Bottling Company, Pepsi-Cola Bottling Company, supervising about 100 people for that position. I've been at the sheriff's office and as chief deputy as a sheriff. Been on the board of supervisors for 8 years. I've managed and supervised my whole life. That's all I've ever really done. We've got a good department. I put our department against any department in Virginia. I don't have to tell these guys what to do. They know what their job is and they go do it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, Sheriff Stanley, next question, and same to you, Fleming, you'll be able to respond 2 minutes each. What's the most successful accomplishment in your career at this point?
Probably the most success would be being able to be appointed sheriff. That's been a lifelong dream of mine. I know a lot of people say, well, you wasn't elected, you was appointed. You're still sheriff right now. It's still an honor to serve and represent the people of Dickson County. It's just been an honor to work with the crew that I have. We put a great department together. And to me, from the last September 2018 till now, if you've watched us, follow us on Facebook, you've seen what our department's done. I'm proud of everything we've done in that department. Like I said, when you have a Dickson County Sheriff's Office that was never even recognized hardly in the state of Virginia, and you have counties like Loudoun, Andover, all those big counties calling us and asking us to advise on things that we're doing, that's a pretty good honor right there.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fleming, what's your most successful accomplishment in your career at this point?
Yeah, my most successful accomplishment is serving the citizens of Dickinson County, staying alive. I've been a police officer for 18 years, and Department of Corrections 7 years. Staying alive and going home to my family every night, keeping the citizens of Dickinson County safe and my co-workers safe. That's my greatest accomplishment.
Thank you.
Mr. Fleming, in your opinion, what are the 3 greatest challenges the sheriff's office faces, and how will you answer these challenges?
Of course, we spoke on this already, and I think the biggest challenge is the drugs. We've got a tremendous drug problem in our county. Mr. Stanley said he wanted to see these drug numbers, and it's drug numbers that I've obtained directly from Virginia State Police Drug Task Force Office. You know, we are dead last in drug indictment charges. We charge a fewer amount of drug crimes than any county, any surrounding county. And I can throw a few numbers out there real quick. Buchanan County, 107, Scott County, 115, Wise County, 135, Dickinson County, 37. Those numbers are just unreal to me. And why we only have 37 drug charges, I don't know. That'd be a question for Mr. Stanley. And second, I think, you know, trying to regain public trust. I mentioned a minute ago that the sheriff's office just came out of a grand jury investigation that we were led into by Mr. Stanley. I just feel like that's something that needs to be addressed as well. And I talk about audits. You know, I think we do need audits. We need to keep up with things. Accountability is a big one. We need to know what our people are out here doing. We need to know and keep up and supervise these people on a daily basis. Don't just think that they're out here doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Thank you, sir. Sheriff Stanley, in your opinion, what are the 3 greatest challenges the sheriff's office faces, and how will you answer these challenges?
The 3 greatest challenges are, just like Mr. Fleming said, our drug problem in Dixon County. Another great challenge is keeping your kids safe in schools. That's a big challenge that's put upon our department, and we take it very serious. We want to make sure that all of our kids are safe in schools, and that's what we made a priority for. Going back to the drug numbers Mr. Fleming's reference to, I don't know, I have the actual numbers, I don't know where his came from, but with the drug task force. And yeah, we're behind Wise County, but shouldn't we be? Wise County has 3 times the population of Dixon County, guys. You know, we're a small county. And I'm even quote our Commonwealth Attorney there, crowd, from his debate the other night. Hey, we live in a pretty good place, and I'm proud of Dixon County. Yeah, I'm proud of that. I thought Seth done a good job on that, and I'm proud of this county. I mean, we're like everybody else. We got a drug problem, but we're working on it daily. And then talk about the grand jury. I didn't leave the sheriff's office during that grand jury. I was the chief deputy at that time. That was under Sheriff Bobby Hammond. And the grand jury's investigation wasn't for the sheriff's office. It was one investigator. And that problem was solved day 2 when I became sheriff. I relieved that person of his duties from the sheriff's office. So, lead by example, and these drug numbers, like I say, our department this year alone has already had 78 drug charges, and I think you said 30 or 40 or some number like that. I don't know where that came from, but low drug numbers right now. That's is that a bad thing? Does that mean you're not doing your job? We know we're eating drugs. It's meth, but it's not the prescription pill problem. You got more users than you do sellers. The meth is being sold in Tri-Cities, nationally.
That's 2 minutes. Thank you.
Sheriff Stanley, next question is for you, and then, of course, Mr. Fleming, you'll be able to respond. After we do this question, we're going to actually transition into the questions from the audience. So, and then we'll move back. So, Sheriff, what's your philosophy on recruitment and retention of your employees, and what steps will you take at the sheriff's office to keep from being a training ground?
Robert, that's a good question. What we like to do and what we started last September is we have an excellent auxiliary program. We have about 17 members in that program. We have about 8 officers that work part-time. So when a full-time position comes up, and actually that's what we look at, is the ones that we've been training and working with over the years in our auxiliary and part-time program. We was talking about our schools a while ago. We received a grant for 3 SR positions. It didn't cost the county nothing. And the first time in history, Dixon County Sheriff's Office was able to hire 2 certified police officers that you don't have to send to the academy. So I'm very proud of that. But we like to get the guys in the auxiliary program, in our part-time program. They go through training classes with us. We have a good training department, and it just works out. When we have a position ready, we just try to move somebody over.
Okay, Mr. Fleming, let me restate that just to make sure you heard it okay. What's your philosophy on recruitment and retention, and what steps will you take to keep the sheriff's office from becoming a training ground?
Yeah, I think there are a lot of improvements that could be made, and I do agree with Mr. Stanley. We need to recruit, train, and promote the best people possible. I think when you bring some of these new employees on part-time, and you bring some of these auxiliary members on, you put them on, and you give them an idea and an understanding of what the department's like and what day-to-day operations like within the sheriff's office. And it gives them an opportunity to decide whether or not they want to stick with law enforcement or follow a different career path. I think the pay scale is a big issue. There was reasons I left the sheriff's office, and that was one of them. And I'm going to go to bat for these deputies. I'm going to go to bat for these dispatchers. I'm going to be in these board meetings. I'm going to be at the board of supervisors. I'm going to be asking for pay raises for my deputies, new vehicles for the deputies. We've got to do the best we can do to hire the best qualified people possible.
I'm going to ask a follow-up question to both candidates. Sheriff, I'll start with you first, because this is for the audience. Lieutenant Robinette and I would know this, but this is really an epidemic of trying to keep good people at a department. So, Sheriff, you first. With the comp board setting pay and not really allowing a whole lot of variance in that, what do you see, and Mr. Fleming, same question to you once he responds, what do you see as the most viable avenue to try to increase pay what are the options that you have?
Some of the options, Robert, that we have that helps our officers out, we have a DUI grant. They can work DUI on their hours they're off duty. That pays them time and a half. The Corps of Engineers has 3 campgrounds in our county. They pay us during the summer months to work the campgrounds, about $25 an hour. We have, at the courthouse, we have a courthouse security fund. And officers are more than welcome, if we're short, need extra help, they can work that, it pays them $25 an hour. There's just, different things, we try to, get together all we can and have a cookout and try to be a family. You know, we just, all of us, we don't make no money, we don't make a lot of money, but, you know, we're gonna do what we can to get the money. We go to Richmond, I've been to Richmond twice since I've been sheriff, we was able to get some more funds. I'm just, you know, proud to say that since September of last year, we have increased our department with 7 new employees. And for a small county like Dixon County, that's pretty huge. You know, Mr. Fleming said he was going to go lobby the board of supervisors and get vehicles. We've got 5 new vehicles and 2 used ones in a year. I think that's pretty good considering the finance of Dixon County. We have an awesome board of supervisors. It's been very good to help us with everything we've ever requested. So we're going to fight. We're going to try to get every dollar we can for our guys.
Okay, Mr. Fleming, so you understand what, okay.
Yes, and it is tough, and I understand that when you live in a small county, and you have money problems like we've had in the county over the past 10, 12, 15 years, it is difficult to come up with money and where's it going to come from, but as I said before, I have been to Richmond on several different occasions and lobbied for raises, and I think we need to continue doing that. Not sure if Mr. Stanley, he said he's been to Richmond twice since he's been sheriff, and that's great. It really is. The problem you have when you start, and those programs Mr. Stanley mentioned are all great. You know, courtroom security, go work at $25 an hour, government patrolling the campground, yeah, that's great as well. But what you have is you have a bunch of tired police officers at the end of the day. When they have to go work their 8, 10, 12-hour shift and then try to follow it up with a 8, 10-hour shift, you know, government shift, courtroom security shift, it's tough. It's tough working those 20, 22-hour shifts. I've done it. I've been there. It's just a shame that's what you have to do to provide for your family. You know, the board of supervisors, their hands are tied, and I understand that. And they are great. They do a wonderful job. You know, we just need to keep a great working relationship with them and hope for the best.
Okay, thank you. We're going to transition into questions that the audience has provided. So we've got these over the last week or so. And what Lieutenant Robinette and I have done is we've looked at those questions. Some of those either have been addressed in the questions that we've asked so far, or they will be addressed in the questions after this section, or we didn't feel like they were appropriate for the setting that we're in right now. So Lieutenant Robinette will start. These are directed at certain candidates, so we didn't choose these. So these will say for Scott or for Jeremy, and that's how we'll address the questions.
Gentlemen, this first question is actually for both of you, and I'm going to read it as it's written. Scott, under your leadership, I personally experienced very poor response times. Why?
I don't know why. I can't imagine why we'd have poor response time unless officers are tied up on another emergency. We have, since September of 2018, we took the county, divided it up in 4 different areas, Hayside, Clinchco, Nora, and Clintwood, and officers are assigned to those areas. So if they have a slow response time, I'm sure it's because they're tied up on an emergency. That's the only reason it could be.
Thank you, sir. Jeremy, what's your plan to address these response times?
Yes, sir. And again, you know, I've worked part-time in the town of Hayside over the past couple of years, and I can tell you, you know, I can answer Mr. Stanley's question for him. You know, it's staff shortage on his part. When you've only got 2 officers working the road, sometimes one, those are going to lead to slow response times, and that's just what's happening right now with the current sheriff's office. I'm out, I'm listening to calls when I'm working in the town of Hays High, and it's one pending call after another. We can do better, and we are going to do better. We're going to ensure we're going to become a more patrol-oriented department. We're going to take some of those day shift positions, and we're going to put them on night shift, and we're going to put them to work. Some of them are not going to be happy about it, but that's just my philosophy, and that's where I stand. We're going to put more coverage. We're going to have coverage in every area of Dickinson County, from the Breaks Park to the Wise County line to Dane, wherever it may be. I'm going to put some coverage back on the road.
Thanks, sir.
Do I get a follow-up on that or anything?
You can.
I'd like to, because evidently Jeremy didn't listen to what I said. I said we have all the county covered. We have it divided up into 4 areas. We have officers assigned to those areas. He said he's going to take a deputy off day shift. Well, that's pretty good to do since we only have one deputy most of the time that works day shift. Myself, Assistant Sheriff Kelly Flemings, Major Wes Mullins, and Captain Jared Saggers, if we're on day shift, we're all answering calls. If the night shift needs help, we're out on night shift answering calls. Like I said, we have 7 new officers. We've got 3 in the academy right now, so yeah, we're a little bit short-handed right now, but we don't patrol the town of Hays High. We don't patrol the town of Clintwood. We patrol Dixon County. We patrol the outskirts of Dixon County.
Take a quick follow-up, sir. Why doesn't his schedule reflect what he's saying? I mean, the schedule's right here. You've got officers right here. I don't know how they know where they slept last. 2P to 10P, 8A to 4P, 8A to 4P, 4P to 12A, 6P to 2A. One of the main reasons I left the sheriff's office, and it's continued right here. Here's the schedule. I don't know if you need a copy of it to look at, but it doesn't reflect what you were saying.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. That was no end that question.
Next question, actually, it was 2 questions, but I think Scott has addressed this. I'll go ahead and tell you what the question was in all fairness, but I'm not going to ask the question. It was a question about his accomplishments since taking office. I think he's answered that question. So the next question, Jeremy, is for you. And that question says, and I'll read it verbatim, do you feel that your lack of management or other experience hinder you as becoming sheriff?
No, sir. I do not. I guess if you ask Mr. Stanley, he has portrayed me on several different occasions to have an inadequate amount of experience. However, I guess he's forgotten 1999, he supported Bobby Emmons for sheriff, who had way less experience than I have now. And now his assistant sheriff and his major have less time than his captain. So I guess if I can ask a question to him, my question would be, is experience only an issue when someone is opposing you?
Let's wait, because there will be a section in the debate that you'll be able to address the questions. Let's wait for that.
All right, the next question would be for Mr. Stanley. What would you do as sheriff, regarding that you're already sheriff, with the upcoming election on its way, to streamline the office? What would you do as sheriff to streamline the office and make it more efficient?
Test. Can you hear it, Allison? Clay, can you repeat the question again?
What would you do as sheriff to streamline the office and make it more efficient?
I think we've already done that. When I took office back in September 2018, we're working to be an accredited agency. I think I've got the right people in the right places to make that happen. As far as streamlining, we're pretty much, we're a small department. Like I said, we have people in the academy right now, but we all answer calls, man. We all come out and work. I'm not just a sheriff that sits behind the desk. Kelly, Wes, and Jared, they do we all answer calls, man. And as far as streamlining, I don't know if it can be streamlined any more than it already is.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fleming, same question. What would you do as sheriff to streamline the office and make it more efficient?
Well, I think there's several things you can do to make it more efficient, and I go back to what I said a few minutes ago. You know, putting more staff on the road, and I appreciate the fact that Mr. Stanley and his leadership team, command staff, I appreciate the fact they do answer calls. But I can name 8 or 9, maybe even 10 that are on day shift. That we could put more deputies on the road. We could put 4 or 5 more deputies on the road, then we wouldn't have a schedule that looks like this. It's officer safety issues, which we need to drastically improve on. And again, I don't know if there's people out, you know, throughout the night that's not on this schedule, but when you have one officer working the road by himself, that's an issue to me. And 24-hour coverage. I want to create and maintain a 24-hour coverage for every citizen in Dickinson County. I know they have attempted a 24-hour coverage, but again, it's an officer safety issue when you have one officer working the road. I would never create a liability or situation like that where I have one officer working the entire county.
All right, thank you, sir.
Can I get a follow-up on that one?
Yes.
I don't know of any time that we have just one officer working the road. For the first time in the history of Dixon County Sheriff's Office, again, we have 24-hour coverage. We're able to do 24-hour coverage with 3 people in the academy right now. We might have a person there might be 2 people out, one calling sick, but that don't mean that myself, Kelly, Wes, Jared, Dunn, anybody, Tim Parrish, Mike Stidham, we answer calls. No officer is ever on the road by themselves alone in Dixon County. I will not. That is far from true. I don't care what the paper says. I know what the schedule is. I know what my officers work.
Response to that, Mr. Fleming?
Yes, sir. How many did you have working the road last night?
What shift?
12A to 8D. 12A to 8A.
2?
Who were they?
I'm not sure, other than Lester Turner, maybe. I think RJ was out.
That's not correct.
Who were?
Lester Turner worked by himself.
And maybe was not the other officers on call with him?
Oh, there may have been 25 officers on call from the house. I don't know. I don't know what you've done with the schedule or how you manage it, but you know, I talk to a lot of your officers. I talk to a lot of your deputies on a daily basis, and you have one officer working the road last night.
It must have been an emergency then.
All right, gentlemen, that'll be it for that question. This question is directed toward Sheriff Stanley. What criteria is used to activate outside help, such as the Virginia State Police Bureau Criminal Investigations Team in assisting with major crimes?
Usually on any homicide we have, we always rely on Virginia State Police and the officers of DCI to help us. Our arsons, we always rely on those guys to come and help us with our arsons. We've had several sexual assault cases that we've relied on them to help us. We use DCI office for our polygraphs. Yeah, we're not ashamed to reach out and ask for help from those guys. They do a great job. They've got a lot of resources, and we work really well with those folks. We're glad they're there for us.
Mr. Fleming, what would your criteria be to activate outside help, such as the Virginia State Police Bureau of Criminal Investigations, your team in assisting with major crimes?
Yes, I absolutely think it's a good idea. It's a great idea. I think we need to reach out to any available resources, whether it be DCI, Virginia State Police, whether it be Clinton Police Department, ASI Police Department. We need to work together, and that's something that I have. I have a great working relationship with the town of Clintwood. I have a great working relationship with the town of ASI, town of Clinchco. And I just think it's a great idea to reach out to those guys and use their resources. We are a small county, and we do need the help.
Okay, the next question is for Sheriff Stanley, but there's a follow-up question that asks Mr. Fleming to address the issue as well. So the question is, why are calls and complaints of ATVs and motorcycles driving reckless not responded to?
Don't know, I'm sure if we have a complaint, we respond to it. I can't think of any incident where we've not responded to a call of any kind.
Okay, and the follow-up, Mr. Fleming, was how would you handle these calls?
Of course, if you get a call through dispatch, you need to respond to it. I don't care what the situation is, you need to respond to that call. There was a situation last week in the Hayside area where there was a domestic call at Centennial Heights, and there was threats being made, and a guy with a knife, and the deputy responds on the radio saying, "Give me his phone number, I'll give him a call." We can't do that. We've got to respond to these calls. We got to take every call serious. Unfortunately, with the ATVs, a lot of people associate ATV riding with alcohol, and that's my problem with it. I don't have an issue you going from point A to point B on the roadway with an ATV side by side, as long as you're riding in a reasonable manner. But you do need to address the call and address the complaint.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll start off with Mr. Fleming again. There was a special grand jury of the Sheriff's Department conducted. Do you feel it was proper or improper for the current Commonwealth Attorney to have participated in that process?
I think it was totally proper. He is a Commonwealth Attorney. It is his job to make tough calls, tough decisions, and you are an elected official, and I think it was proper.
Sheriff Stanley, same question. There was a special grand jury. Do you feel it was proper or improper for the current Commonwealth Attorney to have participated in that process?
That's the Commonwealth Attorney's call. If I'd been the Commonwealth Attorney, I know our Commonwealth Attorney recused herself from one incident in the grand jury investigation. But as far as saying anything about the investigation involving John Hall, I have no problems with the way it was handled. I'm pleased with the outcome of it, and that's all I really got to say about that.
Thank you, sir. Next question is addressed to Sheriff Stanley. The question is, Mr. Baker, Commonwealth Attorney, has stated that he has no problem working with your department and is working with your department now. Is that an accurate statement?
I think so. It's no secret, me and Seth had a little bumpy road, but they don't keep him from doing his job, and don't keep our officers from doing our job. We speak, like he said the other day in his debate, that we wave at each other, we ain't got no hard feelings. It was, my guys, when they go give staff, they help our guys put stuff together, files and stuff. I don't think we have no problem where it's affected prosecution of cases in our county.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Fleming, you were a deputy under Sheriff Bobby Hammonds, and you left for a different job as campus police at UVA Wise. Why did you leave, and why are you now seeking to return as sheriff? And the second part of this question, as to former Sheriff Hammonds, did you support him and his policies while working for him? And isn't that a giant leap from campus security officer to the sheriff of Dickinson County?
Yes, I did leave and go to UVA Wise, to the college, and at the time it was a wonderful financial move for me. I received a substantial pay raise when I went, and I'm gonna do what's right and what's best for my family every time. And I did work for Sheriff Bobby Hammonds, and he's a great guy. Bobby and I go to church together at Valley View Church. I have for 20 years. I've been there since 1999. I went to church with Bobby. Shake his hand every time I speak to him. Never had a problem with Bobby, and he's always been good to me, and I'll always be indebted to him for that. And yes, it will be a big leap for me from campus police department, deputy sheriff. You know, going into a role where you're being a leader, it'll be a giant step. But it's going to be a learning process, and you know, we'll do the best we can do with it if elected in November.
All right, so, Sheriff, since that was directed toward Mr. Fleming, I'll ask a question of you, directly to you. Why not more drug arrests in the county, and why is the drug task force more active in other counties than Dickinson County? Why no roundups like we see in other counties?
I don't know the reason to say it's more active in other counties. Anytime we have a drug buy over here in our county, those agents come and help us in our county. I don't think, and sure they're going to be in those counties more because of the population. Just, you know, Wise County 3 times the size of us. Scott County, Lee County has about 8,000 more people than we do. But anytime we need those guys, they're here to help us. Was that another part of the question, Clay?
Just why there were more roundups in other counties and not Dickinson County. They wanted to know why there were more roundups in other jurisdictions that seemed like than yours.
For the past couple of years now, we don't do roundups. We have drug arrests. We go out and arrest those folks and bring them in. Instead of doing a big roundup and putting them all over the newspaper and the TV, saves a little embarrassment, saves a little trouble on some people, and we just don't do the roundups. When we do our drug conference, we go out and pick those folks up at that time. We just don't do it for publicity.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, same thing here. I'll do one to Mr. Fleming and then back to Sheriff Stanley. So the question, we had a couple of questions that ended up around this ideology, but basically the question is, what is your policy regarding the current people who work at the sheriff's office, and what would be their standing with you if you were elected sheriff?
I'm glad we got. Yes, I'm glad I got that question. It's one that I've actually been waiting on, and I wanted to address it. The Dickinson County Sheriff's Office has some of the best employees there is out there. I get along with all of them. I attempt to speak to every one of them every day when I see them out. I have never stated to anyone that I was going to replace, fire, get rid of anybody in that department. I have never made that comment to anybody. So if there's anyone here in this audience tonight, or if there's anyone watching online who has heard me say that, please give me a call. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. I see you raising your hand out there, Dunn. Dunn did come to me. We had a good conversation. I think maybe he called me on the phone. And he was one, and that's what I wanted to address. I've had 2 employees from the sheriff's office come to me and tell me that they would resign on day 1. And Mr. Hill was one of those, and the major was the other. But with that said, that's not what I want, and that's not what I'm asking for.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stanley, the question to you that comes from the audience are, what are the current policies regarding people in custody to prevent escapes? And there's a second part to that. Has there been any escapes in the last year?
Our policy is once you're placed under arrest that you are handcuffed, and when you're at the sheriff's office that you're handcuffed and shackled to a pole that goes under the bench where you're seated until you're either released or taken into custody from the regional jail. And yes, there was an incident a few months ago where one of our officers allowed a gentleman to step outside and smoke a cigarette, and he took advantage of her kindness and ran on her. But he was, later he turned himself in.
Okay, thank you.
Gentlemen, this question is for both of you. We'll start with Mr. Fleming. What, in your opinion, is the number one crime-related issue, excluding drugs, that needs an immediate plan of action from the next sheriff?
That is a good question. And to be honest with you, I'm not really sure. I'm not. There's a number of crimes that get committed every day on a daily basis. You know, you can go anywhere from I would have to say DUIs probably would be the second largest crime probably committed in Dickinson County as opposed to drugs. And that's another issue in itself. The numbers I received from the Dickinson County Sheriff's Office was from July of 2018 to July of 2019, we had 16 DUI arrests. 16 DUI arrests. When I worked at the Sheriff's Office, I had a total of 101 DUI charges. And I don't know what the math is there, but 7 years, average probably 15, 17, 18 DUIs per year. And to think the Sheriff's Office as a whole had only 16 DUI charges, that's just unacceptable. Especially when you've got surrounding counties. I know Mr. Stanley talked about the population, but 16 DUI charges, less than 1 DUI charge per officer. It's unacceptable, and we can do better, and we will do better.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Stanley, same question. What, in your opinion, is the number one crime-related issue, excluding drugs, that needs an immediate plan of action from the next sheriff?
Mr. Robinette, as far as the next most crime that we have, I would have to say I don't agree with it's not DUIs. We have a lot of sexual assaults dealing with our children in the county. That's probably one of the most important crimes we have, other than I know we have a drug problem, yeah, but we have a lot of crimes involving our children being violated. Talking about DUIs, you know, and again, I like to go back to what Seth said the other night, guys. We live in a pretty good... We live in a pretty good place, guys, and yeah, we're not Wise County. We don't have bars and nightclubs for people to go to. We've got our problems with drinking and driving, but yeah, you know, there's always have to be negative, and we not think, hey, maybe we're doing our job as law enforcement. Maybe our increased checking details, maybe increased patrols are working throughout the county. Why do we always have to look at the negative side of everything, guys? You know, maybe they're positive there. You know, maybe we're actually doing something right for once in the county. Mr. Fleming talked about his DUIs. I pulled those before we came, and the clerk's office, he actually had 78 DUIs with 54 convictions, which gives him about a 69% rate of convictions on his DUIs. Again, you know, back when we had more bars in the county, we used to get more DUIs. But to say that my officers are not doing their job, not patrolling the streets, I don't agree with that, and I think it's pretty hard. That really bothers me, because I know my guys are out there working and patrolling these streets and trying to keep Dixon County safe.
Can I have a follow-up to that real quick?
Yes.
Yes, and again, I don't know where Mr. Stanley got those numbers from, but anyone in this audience, I would encourage you to go by the clerk's office. It's public information. You can log online. You can view all charges. It'll take you about 8 hours because it did me, but you're more than welcome to go online and look at those charges. And those numbers Mr. Stanley just gave you are completely false.
follow, I guess, you know, I encourage you to go look at it, go pull the files. I have no reason to lie about that. I didn't do it, but one of my officers took a day off, and he spent about 10 hours doing that for me, and, no reason to lie, numbers are what they are, guys.
Okay, so this question is, it doesn't say who it's to, so I'm gonna assume it's both candidates, and we'll just start with Mr. Fleming first. What leadership or management classes have you attended to better prepare yourself to lead the sheriff's office?
Yeah, I've taken advantage of a lot of opportunities to attend, you know, every training session possible. Of course, a lot of it's, you know, in-service stuff, but I could go through, and I've got 2 pages of things here that I'm looking at, you know, that I have certifications in. I could, you know, use of force, you know, law enforcement, emergency driving, advanced search and seizures, Project Lifesaver, you know, courses, cultural diversity classes, you know, opioids, bath salts, and I repeat, multiple search and seizure updates and classes, rapid response to active shooter, level 1, level 2, suicide prevention, human trafficking, cultural diversity, organizational culture. Like I said, I've got a couple pages worth of things here that I've taken, training classes at the academy, and I think all those as a whole has prepared me for to take the next step.
Okay, Sheriff Stanley, what leadership or management classes have you attended to better prepare yourself to lead the sheriff's office?
As I stated earlier, Robert, I have an associate's degree in management. I have a business degree in business management. I have attended the Leadership Academy and graduated that. I have numerous classes, as Jeremy mentioned, but those are not really a leadership. Those train you more to be a good officer. I working for Coca-Cola. I took a supervisor workshop in Charlotte, North Carolina for a year. I took numerous supervising classes throughout Virginia, Tennessee, and Southwest Virginia. But the best thing that I've learned is just this hands-on experience being sheriff in the last 13 months has taught me more than anything.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, this question is for both of you. We'll start with Mr. Stanley. As a leader in the community, you have to set standards of professionalism. How will you handle ethical and personal issues within the department, and what standard do you hold for yourself?
I hold standards for myself as I do there for my whole staff. As I stated earlier, there've been rumors and lies told about my department and my staff that's completely untrue. Like I said, day 2 on the job, I terminated an investigator with over 20 years experience because he was under investigation of a special grand jury. I've heard rumors and stuff about my employees that I know is not true. I've got a great department. I've got 2 pastors, about 3 deacons from churches. We're not just a sheriff's office. We're a family. We all stick together. We love each other. And when I hear a rumor about myself or one of my people, I take it personal. It hurts my feelings. I'm just sick of the rumors and sick of the lies. You know, I'm not a perfect man. None of us in this room are perfect. I've made mistakes, but I know in my heart that we have the best sheriff's office in Southwest Virginia, and we're going to continue to grow this office, and we're going to prove all these rumors are nothing but lies.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Fleming, same question. As a leader in the community, you have to set standards of professionalism. How will you handle ethical and personal issues within the department, and what standard do you hold for yourself?
Yes, I hold myself to a very high ethical moral standard, and I would hold the entire department to the same level. There have been rumors and there have been accusations of things that went on inside the current sheriff's office, and And I will tell you this, I'll make it clear, you will not work for me and be out here doing these moral and unethical things. You just won't. If it happens, we'll deal with it as it does happen, but you won't work for me one day if you're out here doing things that you shouldn't be doing.
Thank you, sir.
This question is not addressed to any particular person, so we'll just take both candidates. We'll start with Mr. Fleming first. Assess the recent performance of the Sheriff's Department, and if elected, would you continue in the same direction or change course?
I'm going to say poor, and yes, I absolutely would take the sheriff's office in a different direction. Again, I go back to the lack of drug indictments, the lack of drug charges, the leadership of the department. I question sometimes is decision-making skills. Mr. Stanley stood up at Ridgeview High School last week and handed out over 500 free hot dogs when you've got the concession stand inside Ridgeview High School trying to make money for school programs. It's poor decision making, and it's happened the last 2 years. But yes, I would take and lead the department in a different direction, and we're going to do more drug work. We're going to do more DUI work. We're going to increase on those numbers we just spoke about.
Okay. Sheriff Stanley, assess the recent performance of the Sheriff's Department, and if elected, would you continue in the same direction or change course?
I would, Robert, I would continue in the same direction we're going. Like I said, since September 2018, this department has came from a non-existent department to one that people recognize it throughout the state. I'm proud of our department. We've made many of the accomplishments. Like I said, it's been only a year, and we've increased our department by 7 people. We've increased our patrol vehicles. We have new bulletproof vests for every officer. We have a rank and structure system now where you're accountable. You're held accountable for your jobs. Our sergeants, our lieutenants, and captains, they do their job, and they don't have to worry about political biting them in the butt or anything like that. You do your job, and we don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. We're going to do our job the same way. I'm just proud of the department. I don't, and again, I would not change the direction. We're just going to continue to be aggressive on the drug. We're going to be aggressive on the road, and we're going to be professional.
Thank you.
The next question is addressed to Mr. Fleming. What experience or training do you have in managing a large group of employees? And what is your knowledge in terms of the administrative role of a sheriff?
Yeah, as I spoke on earlier, I have been in law enforcement for 18 years. Spent 7 years at Red Oak State Prison. I spent 7 years at the Dixon County Sheriff's Office. The last 3.5 years I've been at UVAY, and I have been a field training officer for 15 of those years. And like I said a few minutes ago, my responsibility as a field training officer is to train and evaluate newly hired employees. I spent 2.5 years on Clintwood Town Council. We've done some good things. We picked up a couple of vehicles on grants that we applied for, very successful. Managed a town that had approximately 20 employees and a $1.3 million budget. Same thing, Clintwood Rescue Squad. We deal with a lot of grant work. We just put a grant in for a new squad for $250,000. So grants, day-to-day operation, that's not a problem.
Okay, the next question is not addressed to anyone individually, so we'll just ask that question to both candidates. We'll start with Mr. Stanley first. In the past, welfare checks and shared custody arrangements have provided some confusion. How do you propose that child welfare checks should be handled? That's the first part. The second part, should the officer required to see the child in person? And then the Third part, when is it a good policy to contact is, how do you propose they be handled? Second part, should the child be seen in person? Third part, when do you contact social services?
Robert, I think anytime you have a call for a welfare check on a child, it should be done in person. The child should be reviewed, and if the officer sees anything at the residence, drug paraphernalia, signs of child abuse, nasty living conditions, not enough food in the house, then I would contact our social service department.
Okay. Mr. Fleming, let me state that again because it's kind of long. In the past, welfare checks and shared custody arrangements have provided some confusion. How do you propose that child welfare checks should be handled? That's the first part. Second part, should the officer require to see the child in person? Third part, when is it a good policy to contact the Department of Social Services?
Yes, I think it's always a good idea to see the child in person, and I think you should respond to all of them. Any welfare check, regardless of the situation, you do need to respond to. And I do agree with Mr. Stanley. If you see signs of abuse, neglect, drug use, drug paraphernalia around, or even if they won't let you view the child, won't let you see the child, I think that's when it's time to contact social services. And Mr. Stanley would probably agree with me. There are times that you receive numerous amount of welfare checks at the same address every day, sometimes twice a day, 3-4 times a week. I think at that point it becomes an issue. But yes, you do need to respond to all of those and treat them all very seriously, and you should view the child.
Thank you. I think what we're going to do now is we're going to transition. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, so you guys have not been as long-winded as we thought you would be. So we want to make sure that, first of all, that was all the questions from the audience. So that takes care of what we received and what we had screened. Now we'd like to transition into you, the candidates, being able to ask questions of one another. And we'll just kind of gauge the time on that and how that's going so that Lieutenant Robinette and I can finish up the question we have. So no particular order. Since you answered last, we'll let Sheriff Stanley propose the first question. Same debate guidelines, same rules. So Sheriff Stanley, if you have a question of Mr. Fleming that you'd like to ask, we'll give you time to ask that. Him have time to respond, and if you want to counter that back and forth, then we'll monitor that.
Okay. Ready? Jeremy, I guess the first question I've got, is it true that you receive a personal development funding individually each year as a Kansas police officer at UVA of Wise, and that goes toward using for professional development and training? Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first probably sentence of your question.
That you receive a personal development funding individual fund through the campus police at UVA Wise and used toward professional development and training.
I don't know if anybody else is having trouble hearing him, but I'm getting a lot of muffled. I don't know, Mr. Moderator, have you heard the question?
Yeah, the question was, and tell me if I'm wrong, the question was, as an employee of UVA Wise, do you receive annual professional development money?
Do I receive annual?
Does the college provide you annual professional development money to do classes or training?
No. No, not that I'm aware of, no.
That's the only question I have right now. You can go ahead and answer me.
Okay.
I'll go back to a question I had a few minutes ago about Mr. Stanley supporting Mr. Hammonds back in 1999, again, who had far less experience than I do now. And his assistant sheriff and his major have far less experience than his captain. So is experience only an issue when someone is opposing you?
No, not at all. I really don't understand one part of the question, but the reason I supported Sheriff Bobby Hammonds in 1999 was Bobby was a previous chief jailer. He had 3 or 4 years of just managing a jail staff. He worked in the 70s as a road officer. He worked for Avery Phipps as a road officer a little bit. So he had more training. I know you like to talk about your 18 years experience in law enforcement, but you know, a lot of times, you know, what you do at DOC and what we do in law enforcement is completely different. As far as the, is it working now? It wouldn't work a second ago, Allison, the other mic would. Red light.
This one's good.
Is it working now?
No,
Can you hear me now?
no.
What about now? And as far as talking about my major and his position and Assistant Sheriff Kelly Flemons in his position, having less time than my captain, it's different jobs for different people. Jared Sayers is my captain. Jared's one of the best training officers throughout the state. He's got probably more, can you hear me now? He's probably got more certificates in training than any officer in Southwest Virginia. So that's why I wanted him to be a captain and a training officer. Kelly, when he came aboard as assistant sheriff, that was for administrative purposes only, working to get accredited, and I wanted him to. Can you hear me now?
Go for it.
And as far as Kelly's position, that was for accreditation. You need an administrative person. Our major is our operations person. I'll stand behind that decision to the end.
Yeah.
Let's take a 5-minute break, and we'll
Somebody's-
figure these microphones out. 5 minutes, please, just 5 minutes, and we'll work on the sound.
Jenny Baker should look good down there.
Oh,
I'm out here. I can hear anyone.
you know me.
Test. 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 Test.
Got all this money. The school wants, they need to throw back. I $1 in graduation. So far, 2 months I gave them $100 in graduation. These money, they get money. Work in the school, they need to Very good. Behave yourself.
Test, test, test. One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Hello? In the back, can you hear? Up in the booth, can you hear? Hear? Okay. Test, test, test. This one's really good. This one's good. Test, 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 test.
Everybody wants to make their way out to the seats and start again.
We'll start off with you, Mr. Stanley. I believe you were speaking last, so we'll let you start off, and we'll continue on roughly 15 minutes from now, and then we'll end this session.
I think I was in the answering the question about Wyatt, the assistant sheriff and the major, and then did I support Bobby Hammond? I think that everything answered pretty much that I was going to on that.
Mr. Fleming?
Yeah, he was, Mr. Stanley was, I think before it, went haywire, he was talking about correctional officers and maybe having a different job or something. I'd like to give him an opportunity to follow up with that.
The question again?
You had mentioned correctional officers just prior to this happening here. You're talking about it was a different job. I just wanted to hear what you had to say about that.
Only thing I was going to say is you say you have 18 years experience in law enforcement. I don't consider DOC and law enforcement being the same. If it was the same, I think our academy would recognize a transfer from an employee from DCJS that worked in DOC to a sheriff's office under DCJS. Those hours and those credits do not transfer from DCJS from one agency to another. So I don't think it's accurate to say that you've got 18 years in law enforcement. I think it's accurate to say that you've got so many years in corrections, but not total law enforcement.
Okay, that's good. My question or his question?
You can go ahead.
Yeah, back in 2012, September 29th, 2012, there was an auction sale where there was two checks, one in the amount of $14,054.75, one in the amount of $28,033.76 that lay dormant in a investigator's desk drawer for 4.5 years. How can you ensure that there's going to be accountability for those type of issues, looking forward to the future?
Yeah, as you stated, that was in 2012. I wasn't the sheriff. I was an investigator at that time. And as I stated earlier, since 2018, we have a new policy and procedure manual that's in place. It's not the same department as it was in 2012 or 2016. We have a new department. That was nothing, as an investigator had that check, didn't do nothing intentional. It was probably the first auction the county had ever had, and he was unsure of how to get it done, and the county attorney, not the Commonwealth attorney, the county attorney, was giving him advice, and it took that long to get the answer from the county attorney.
I don't see almost $50,000 being an accident. I mean, that's a lot of money. We sit here talking about how bad shape the county was, how bad shape, financially, we are overall, and we're talking about $50,000, well, I'm sorry, to be exact, it's about $42,000 to be overlooked. I just think that's a substantial amount of money to be overlooked for 4.5 years. So I guess what you're saying is you wasn't an investigator, you were an investigator at the time, but you had nothing to do with that auction, nothing to...
Well, we all helped at the auction, but I had nothing to do with making sure that check went to the bank. That should have been Sheriff Bobby Hammonds or Chief Deputy Andy Ball-Silcock. Also, that $42,000 would not have came to Dixon County alone. That has to be divided up with the Drug Task Force, your literary fund, and there are a lot of steps that has to be taken. An investigator that had it at the time, like I said, he wasn't familiar with doing it, and he was making sure he got the right information from the county attorney.
Okay.
Sheriff Stanley, do you have a question?
Yes, sir. Jeremy, during the course of my campaign, I've talked to several people, and I've heard over and over the same statement. If you knew Scott like I know Scott, you know, I don't know how well you know me, but I feel like there are a lot of people out in the county know me better than you do. And another statement has been said, and I want to clarify, see if you can clarify this for us, that I embezzled money from my previous employment at Rite Aid. Has that ever been told to anyone in the public?
Negative and negative.
So you never told no one that you have a canceled check where my parents wrote to Rite Aid Pharmacy for $70,000?
This is the first I've heard about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Fleming?
And again, it's something that we've already addressed, but since you have been appointed sheriff, what have you done? What steps have you taken in the opioid crisis we have here in Dickinson County affecting us every day? What steps have you taken to improve that?
Well, I don't think we really have an opioid crisis in the county anymore. I think we have a drug or a meth crisis. When we're out trying to purchase drugs, you don't find prescription pills no more. It's meth and Suboxone. And like I said earlier, we rely on our drug investigator and agents from the DTF to come over. They have good intel. You mentioned earlier that we had like 14 buys for so far in 2019. That's not counting the 64 drug arrests or officers that took off the street with a K9 and doing checking details and traffic stops. So we're making a dent in the drugs.
Okay. I guess this is a number that concerns me in reference to the same topic. Buchanan County Drug Force Task Force agents, they bought a total of 467, they made a total of 467 drug buys in 3 years. Over that same 3-year period from July of 2016 to July of 2019, Dickinson County Drug Task Force agents had 139 drug buys. That's a substantial difference. And in the last 2 years, Virginia State Police agents and Buchanan County Sheriff's Office in the town of Grundy has made 21 drug buys in Dickinson County without any help from our Drug Task Force officer. So what do you want to do to ensure that this is not a continued problem?
Again, is it always a problem? I don't think so. I'll even go back to Seth Baker's comment the other night. We live in a good place. And with you saying that about Buchanan County, not saying nothing bad about it, thank God we're in Dixon County. I mean, we do have a drug problem, but we're not like some of these other counties. Like Seth said, it's a good place to live. You can leave your doors unlocked and your keys in your vehicle. So I'll stick to that. I think we always don't have to look negative. We can look at the positive. Maybe it's working out somehow, you know? Maybe Dixon County Sheriff's Office doing what's right.
Okay, Sheriff Stanley, let's let you ask a question next.
Earlier, Jeremy, you was talking about you never told any of our employees that you was going to terminate them. I was standing with you one day and we had a conversation and you told Kenneth Hill that he was the first to go. You said, "No, I've talked to 1,000 people. I've got to fire you first." You remember that?
That's a negative.
Wow. Well, I sure remember pretty well. As far as, you also stated that Kelly, Assistant Sheriff, wouldn't have the same position, that he wouldn't have a job in your department. Is that not true?
Yes, absolutely. I did say that he would no longer be in that position. I will do away with that title. However, Kelly and I have spoken several different occasions, and I told him he was going, I wanted him to stay. His response was, oh, I guess I'll go back to nights and weekends, and he started laughing. And of course, I didn't respond to that, but no, Mr. Fleming, Mr. Hill, anybody in your current sheriff's office, if they want to stay and work for me, I welcome them, all of them.
Well, I have another follow-up to that. You also told Kelly Fleming that Tammy Robinson, Wes Mullins, and Dunn Hill would be the three that had to leave. Is that not correct?
Negative.
So the ordained minister that works in my department has told me a lie. I'm shocked, but thank you.
Don't be.
Mr. Fleming, do you have a question?
Yes, and this is talked about earlier also. Why is there an insufficient amount of coverage on night shift? And again, you're saying they're not, but I'm saying I've got a schedule right here that tells otherwise. And again, I speak to the majority of your department on a daily basis, whether you believe that or not. And I know how many people's working the road. I talk to them. And it is on a daily basis, there is only one or two officers working covering night shift. That's a huge officer safety concern.
Well, there may be shifts when you have two officers working. They may be shifts in Wise County with three officers working, 3 times the population, 3 times the area to cover the county. It's, we have 24-hour coverage. Never had that before in the county. Our officers don't have to go home and worry about getting called out. When you go home, you're home until your shift starts back the next day. You said you talked to the majority of my staff and they feel the same way. I'm pretty sure the majority of my staff sit here, and I don't know if they feel that way or not, to be honest.
Well, like I said, I don't know. You may be doing something totally different with the schedule, but I've got it, and you're more welcome to look at it. I can hand it to you. You probably got a copy of it, but it's not a population issue at all. I don't care if there's 10,000. I don't care if there's 100,000. It's an officer safety issue, and I would never leave an officer working on the road by himself.
Very well.
Okay, Sheriff, do you have a question?
I do. Jeremy, you talked a lot about you would do away with the assistant sheriff title and the officer that handles all the administration in the department. But I want to ask you, what knowledge do you have about the Virginia Compensation Board, the Department of Criminal Justice Training Standards, and Bailey Act about getting the department accredited? What knowledge do you have about that?
What knowledge do I have about that? I don't have much knowledge on that subject. I know the Virginia Sheriff Association. I'm familiar with some of their policies, procedures, things like that. Not really looked into it much, and I know that we get, and I may be wrong, a little bit off, but I think we get funded one position for every 1,500 employees. Not sure if that's totally accurate, but pretty close. Was there a second part of that question?
Yeah, what knowledge do you have of the Virginia Law Enforcement Accreditation Coalition? That's the body that governs your accreditation.
I know.
Okay, Mr. Fleming, question?
Yes, I guess it could be a follow-up to that question, but Mr. Stanley, what knowledge do you have of it, and why, or have we not been accredited? You've been major now for, what year did you say? I hate to be inaccurate, but 2016, 15? You've been major. You pretty much ran the department, like you said, for the last 15 or 20 years. Why are we not accredited already?
Accreditation, it takes a long time to get it done. We had one of our officers working on accreditation and due to us being short and have officers in the academy, she was answering calls, working the road, didn't get to concentrate on it as much as possible. But with the help of our board of supervisors, we were able to hire one of the top accreditation managers in the state to come to work for us part-time to help us get it going. And since she's been there, we're on track and probably within 6 to 8 months out to getting our first mock assessment done. So we've made some good progress. We just had to get some help to get it done. We was, like you said, short-handed and understaffed, but it slowed us down a little bit. And I wasn't sure through that process, and when we took office in September, we started it back full-fledged to get it done.
Okay, Sheriff, do you have a question?
Yeah, Jeremy, I mean, you talked a lot about the opioid problem, and you talked about you're gonna do this and do that with the drug problem, but I've not heard your plan. Can you tell me what your plan is to solve the drug problem in Dixon County? Because I understand that you said you will no longer use CIs to help you battle the crime of drugs.
Okay, to address that first, no, I never said that. Don't know where that came from either. It's the first I've heard of it tonight. However, I did say it was a revolving door, but I did not say the use of CIs would not be permitted. But again, going back to a more patrol-oriented department, I think if you put more officers on the road, be more visible and productive in the community, that's a good start. Neighborhood watch meetings. When I was at the sheriff's office for 7 years, Bobby Hammond's always, I was the one that got contacted. I was the one that went to the community watch meetings. I was the one that talked about drugs and the issues in our communities. But we need more drug awareness programs, and we can combine that with community watch meetings and, invite as many people, the public, that wants to come and hear about it. Get people involved. That's the biggest issue with solving the drug problem.
So in your Facebook post where you mentioned that you would not use CIs, that's not true?
That is not true.
Okay, Mr. Fleming, do you have a question?
I do not. I don't have any more questions, Mr. Stanley.
Sheriff, do you have any more questions?
I do. Sometime back, there was a Facebook account posted under the name of Sadie Stanley. I don't know if you're familiar with that or not. Do you have any idea, any knowledge about that Facebook account that was made up?
Other than the fact that you got on Facebook and publicly said that was my mother that made that Facebook page, no, I have no knowledge of that.
No, I think what I got on Facebook, and I responded to a post that your mother shared. I never said your mother was behind that Facebook post at all. I just stated that she was the one sharing the post. I didn't. But with that being said, when that post was done, our folks that works at the sheriff's office, they have capabilities of pinging IP's address and stuff with Facebook. And I've got a diagram here of the picture and the IP address comes back to your residence. So I find that very strange.
Yeah, absolutely, it is very strange.
Yeah, that's very strange.
All right, gentlemen, we'll wrap up this session of debate, and we'll continue on with our regular questioning. And we're going to be rounding up at the bottom of the hour. So we're going to be asking questions for the next 5 minutes, and then each of you will have an opportunity to give a closing statement. Each of you will receive 5 minutes apiece for a closing statement. We'll continue questioning. How should the county determine which department should gain additional resources in the future? And we'll start off with Mr. Fleming. How should the county determine which department should gain additional in the future?
I think I heard you say, how would the county, and cut out, I'm sorry.
All right, as an administrator over the budget, you'll have to convince the county to apply funds to your agency or to another department within the county. How would you suggest to the board that those funds be spent either toward you or toward another location in the county?
Yes, I think I think the sheriff's office, being a public service, department and agency and first responding agency, I think should always receive more funding. That's just my personal thoughts. There are a lot of other agencies out there, and they work hard, and they deserve their share of it as well. But, our officers go out here, deputies, they put their lives on the line every day. They work those rotating weekends, the holiday schedules, the night shifts, We're out here when you're at home. We're protecting your families. And I think I think that's the approach I would take with the Board of Supervisors and say, hey, we need more money.
Mr. Stanley, same question. How would you, how should the county, how would you recommend to the county, should they have additional resources in the future? How should they implement those resources? How would you convey that to them?
Mr. Robinette, we're actually very blessed with the Board of Supervisors that we have. Like I said earlier, they funded us 7 vehicles just alone this year, 5 new ones and 2 used ones. They also fund 4 of our SRO positions. Those are positions that's not grant funded. Those are positions that's county funded. The county actually funds 4 of our officers to have a job to keep our schools safe. So, I'd like to have more money, but as long as their guys are keeping 4 of my people working and keeping their families fed, I'm tickled to death with that.
Okay, I think this will probably be the last question. We only have a few minutes left, so we'll go to both of you. But we'll start with Sheriff Stanley first. How do you plan to strengthen relationships with the community?
Robert, one of the first things we done when we took office in September 2018 is myself, Assistant Sheriff Kelly Fleming, and Major Wes Mullins. We met with every agency in the county. We met with behavioral health. We met with social services. We met with all the fire departments, the rescue. We met with social services. We met with Brakes Park. We met with every agency that was in this county to see what we could do to increase our relationships, to make things better. What if we had any problems, what we could do to fix them. That was some of the best meetings we had. We had a good turnout. They had plenty of staff show up, and I was very proud that we done that.
Mr. Fleming?
Yeah, and I think I can agree with Mr. Stanley. I think it's a good approach, and I think you should reach out to all those agencies and assure them that we're going to be a good working relationship. And I think if elected and as sheriff in November, my biggest goal is going to be to regain public trust. Coming out of this grand jury investigation that Mr. Stanley claimed to have no involvement in, I think it's going to be tough to regain the public trust. But we've got to get out, we've got to work hard for them and let them know we're going to support them in any way possible, and we'll be there for them, protect and serve.
So I get a follow-up on that, Robert?
You can.
Jeremy talking about the grand juries, the special grand jury, they came out of that with 12 recommendations. I have those recommendations here and what we had done to correct all of those. And most of those was already corrected before the grand jury even met. They was looking at things under the previous management of the sheriff's office. So I'm proud to say that I don't feel that we have a lack of public trust. I think I proved that day 2 when I took care of the investigator that had caused the special grand jury's problem. So I have no doubt in my mind that we handled everything correctly, and I have nothing to hide from that grand jury.
Quick follow-up. You were part of that. You were chief deputy. You were an investigator. You were part of that. Whether you want to admit it or not, you were part of that. If you didn't know as major that this was not going on, then you should have.
And follow up that real fast, Robert, and to go ahead and go back to our Commonwealth Attorney's statement from the other night. I did know. I think I was the one that gave the interview to the state police, the ARNI, of what was going on with their department and the investigator within that department. So, yeah, I know, and I'm not hiding, I don't know where you keep saying that I'm hiding behind it. I'm not hiding behind it, I know what the problem was, and I fixed it.
Okay, we're going to conclude there, and each person will have a 5-minute closing statement. So since Mr. Fleming went first and Sheriff Stanley went second, we're going to reverse that order. And before we get to that point, I know everybody's going to want to leave quickly. I'll just speak for Lieutenant Robinette and herself. Thank you for having us. We're really appreciative of the invitation. We don't take and these gentlemen don't take their civic responsibility lightly. It takes a lot to run a sheriff. It takes a lot to run for any position. And all of us have devoted decades worth of time to the profession. And again, thank you for the invitation, and go out and vote. I think you've heard a pretty good mixture of responses tonight. So thank you from us, and we just want to go ahead. Sheriff, you'll have the first 5 minutes. We're going to keep you on the clock. And Jeremy, you'll have 5 minutes as well, and also on the clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. And again, thank everyone for coming out tonight. I know it's been a long evening. Basically, guys, it comes down to you on November the 5th. Do you want to elect a sheriff that has no training, no experience, or do you want to elect a proven leader? It's up to you guys. You know, you elect a guy that's going to cost you money in the county when he starts getting rid of my staff, because you're talking $20,000 or something to have an officer trained. I got a good staff. We don't need to go. My guys don't need to go nowhere, man. We're doing our job. We're taking care of business in Dixon County. Since so far this year, our officers has aimed through 12,463 calls. That's huge for Dixon County, guys. That's unreal. To say that our guys are not getting drugs off the street, that's more of an insult to my officers than it is to me when they're letting drugs go on the street. They're letting drunk drivers go all over the county. That's far from true, man. I still stick to what Seth Baker said. Maybe Dixon County ain't such a bad place after all. Maybe we're doing what's right in Dixon County. We got a problem. Ain't denying we got a little drug problem and meth and stuff, but it's being worked on. It's being handled. He talked about DUIs and arrests and stuff being down. This year alone, we've already made 1,335 arrests in Dixon County. That's huge. Our popular, the violent crime rate in Dixon County is 9.9%. Through the national average is 22%. So we're way below the national average when it comes to violent crimes. Property crimes is a little high, it's 24%, but the national average is 35%, so we're below that. We're doing what we need to be doing in Dixon County. We've got a good team. I'll stick to it to the end. We've made accomplishments after accomplishments in a year that's just unheard of. We've got, our officers are better equipped than most officers in Southwest Virginia. And he worked in our department at a time when we didn't have that stuff. But he still don't know that, we're moving ahead, folks. We're making Dixon County something to be proud of, and that's our goal. I've got a good staff. I've got a good department. Like I said, we're not just a sheriff's office, folks. We're family. We get together. We have cookouts. We have dinners together. When you talk about Dylan, you talk about Justin, you're talking about my family, and I take it personal. It's not just an investigator, a lieutenant over the road. That's my friend. We all get out here and work our butts off, and we work hard to solve the crimes. And we've got some of the best crime statistics in the state. We take care of the B&Es. Our B&Es about as far as solved, they're running about 95% right now. We've got two of the best investigators in the state, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to criminal charges, and they do a great job. We was able to send Mike Stidham to the Forensic Academy, and soon Tim Parrish will be going to the Forensic Academy to get them trained better to help us and help other agencies throughout the state. It's just, I'm just sick of the negative. I'm just sick of the rumors and the lies that's being told. That my major, Kelly Fleming is an ordained minister, but he's one of the leaders in our department for extramarital affairs. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. And just those rumors and stuff, man, it don't have to be that way in an election. I don't know why we chose to be that way or why it is that way, but it don't have to be that way. Again, I just want the voters to know on November the 5th, you You got two choices, a proven leader or one that's gonna have to be trained. So you guys decide what you want for your sheriff. Thank y'all for coming.
Yeah, I also want to thank each and every person coming out here tonight. That really means a lot. Thank the school board again for allowing us to have it here. Thank Mr. England and Mr. Robinette, timekeeper here tonight, for everything that you guys have done. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to start again the special grand jury report and the recommendations. And what was said, this is the recommendations that they made to the Dixon County Sheriff's Office to keep seized property or evidence to be kept in a safe place and logged into secure evidence room as quickly as possible, with generally 48 hours, 24 hours of the seizure. Well, guys, they made this recommendation, special grand jury did, because that wasn't happening. They also stated that money and all property from auction shall be properly disposed of within 48 hours. Again, they made that recommendation because it wasn't happening. They also made a recommendation that all county vehicles owned by the sheriff's office be used for work purposes only. They're still doing that. Every day I go to school, I see them bringing their kids to school in a police vehicle. Do you know how much liability that is? That's a huge liability on the county and the taxpayer in Dickinson County. I would have never allow that to happen. And you know, he talked earlier about the rank structure. You know, do you think anybody in here or anybody in the public cares about what you wear, what kind of rank you wear on your sleeve or your shoulder when there's a drug dealer in your home or in your community? Or visibility. I've knocked on 3,600 doors in this county, probably 3,700 after today. But that's all I hear. I never see a deputy. And what are you going to do about the drugs? What are you going to do about the drugs? Well, apparently the current administration is not doing enough. Because, you know, I hear your complaints. I hear your concerns. And I want you to know that if elected as your sheriff in November, we're going to make a difference. And it's not going to take me long for you guys to see that difference. He talked about Mr. Fleming, something about extramarital affairs. I've never heard anything like that. You know, they spread these rumors and they hid behind them. I've talked to Mr. Stanley. I've talked to Mr. Fleming. I get no response. I say, please, tell me who's saying this. Let's go talk to them. That's not an issue. That's not, you know. I'm that guy that's going to go knock on your door and say, hey, let's figure out the problem. Tell me who's saying this. Because you can hide behind it all you want. But until you tell me where the source is coming from, we're never going to resolve the problem. You can continue to hide behind it and accuse me if you want to. But I want you to know, if you're happy as a citizen and a taxpayer of Dickinson County, if you're happy with those DUI numbers and you're happy with those drug numbers and you're happy with the number of officers that are working the road every day in Dickinson County, then you need to support Mr. Stanley, because that's not what you're going to get with me. Thank you. Have a good day.